Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Tribe Talks. That's right, the Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes podcast, where we talk nothing but Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. You may notice that we are a man down, a leg short today on the Tribe Talks, and that's because we don't like anybody else, really. So, fuck everybody else.
Well, we needed a break from other
we did.
people.
Yeah.
We needed some time to focus on ourselves.
Yeah, it's a
just have a little
self-reflection
bro
period.
date. Yeah.
That's why Karth is rocking the fully shaved head at the moment. It's so that we can connect on a deeper level. Hi Karth, how you doing, bud?
I'm doing well. And yourself?
I have certainly been far worse. I've also had better days, but that's okay. It's quite easy. It's just a Sunday. There's only so much enjoyment one can have on a Sunday before Tribe Talks happens, of course.
That is fair. This is fair.
Yeah. Hello, everybody in the chat and everybody at home listening on podcast hosting websites such as, that one on Spotify and that one on Apple Podcasts. I think those are the only ones that truly exist. But I love all of you equally and disparately. So, yes. It's been a bit of a slow week, Karth. We haven't really had stuff happen, really, have we?
No, it's not much going on, to be honest with you. It was pretty relaxed, pretty chill. Nothing to really write home about. No, I think everyone's actually like the first week in a long time where everyone's been like universally happy with the state of the game.
Yeah. I would even go so far as to say is ecstatic with the game. Like really enthused about the current state.
if you go by metrics alone, this is the most people have been talking about Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes in like years.
Yes, because all I have to on the day of the release, I did a live stream going over the era content, and I had like a peak of 1,100 people in my live stream. Normally I have like 200. So getting 5 times and a bit my normal viewership that goes to show that is a significant uptick in people absolutely loving this game.
That's where I would view it too.
Yeah. I'm sure. They were all super happy. In all honesty, though, it's been a little bit shit, really, hasn't it? It's been pitchforks and fire everywhere. Brimstone,
it has been a little out of control this week on a lot of different fronts. Unfortunately, I think we're just kind of stuck in this weird place of where there's not really good information. We're not really getting anything told to us that's beneficial. We're getting a lot of the "I trust me, bro" answers on a lot of things, and so it's being very, very hard to adequately ascertain what we're looking at. A lot of it just seems angry mob with pitchforks runs in the nearest direction of whatever the current Reddit post is arguing about. And that's about it, unfortunately. There's a lot of criticism to be levied where things are at right now, but I can't I can't fault them for it, but at the same time, we're at critical mass of that issue where it's like, since they're not saying much of anything at this time, it's like every little piece of straw that somebody finds that's not in the bale of hay, they're just like, well, look, it's broken, it's messed up again, this is terrible, this game's awful. It's like,
it doesn't help that in this first week, obviously we get 4 different bosses, right? And it's a different one every day. And it seemed like every single boss had a different bug with it. There was always something. And for some reason, I don't know if it happened to you, but the Pirate ATST was the most unstable for me, where occasionally you just go in and it would just stop responding.
Oddly, no, didn't have the problem, but in fairness, I think at most, well, for me, I was able to get to my ability every time. And so through tiers 1 through 3 on my main account, it was mass assist and the fight's over.
Nice.
So I didn't have long enough to really come out to be a problem. So I guess I wasn't playing them long enough for it to matter if it did, but I didn't really notice much of anything. The only real annoyance that I've had from this current update is just the lag and hitching that's been going on with the
that's been rampant.
Yeah, it's been really bad. And so I've not lost a battle because I've timed out anything. I've been able to get through, but I did adjust some of my counters this week for GAC to go with a little bit more of an overkill offensive board, so that way I'm not needing 4 minutes and 30 seconds and I lose a minute and a half to stuttering. So I did change that a little bit, going around that, at least on the main account. I haven't really noticed much except for like in the high, like when there's a ton of things happening at the same time, like when you're debuffing, 400 buffs at the same time.
Anything versus Pirate King Hondo, that's the one match that tends to stutter the most for me. Probably just because the sheer volume of shit that goes on in Hondo's matches. But I found I almost exclusively play on the PC client, and I found generally the PC client has been okay in terms of lag. But Hondo's matches in particular, like Hondo Slacker, like that gets fucky pretty quick. It doesn't like that matchup for some reason. But I've seen loads and loads of people complaining in my Discord, complaining in YouTube comments, in my chat, all that sort of stuff, that they're having like borderline unplayable lag ever since the update. And I know CG has posted about it. They said, look, we're aware of it. We found the problem. It's just more complex than we thought. I don't know where it's come from. I mean, obviously, we don't know where it's come from.
I mean, we don't have a strong answer on it. It's got to obviously be something in the background framework of what Relic Delta, when it was brought, because it came with a title update, that was one of the main systems they brought in. So it's assumed it's Relic Delta. It could be a lot of other things that we brought in that it's just
strange because, like on the playtest that we playtest, there was no lag there when we were testing Relic Delta. It seemed fine there. So there's obviously some, like I have to assume it's something that Colosseum brought in, but it's pure conjecture. We don't really know. But they do really, really need to address it because it's costing people GAC matches. It's costing people territory war, and as much as people like to bitch and moan, they still don't want to lose matches because of lag and all that sort of crap. It's not good enough.
No, it's a very unfortunate state of just like you have so much going on at the same time that it's hard to argue like what's exactly causing the problem, because it's just like we had the massive Coliseum update and Relic Delta and all this new currency and store and this, that, the other thing, and different mechanics and that are kind of got shoved in. So it's kind of hard to say where things went wrong with this particular title update and why that has been
everywhere it went
pervasive.
Wrong. Yeah. I have it on good authority that it was literally everywhere. Like the stuff went wrong, the game went wrong. See about rearranging this to make it a little bit more central. There we go. Okay, cool. So all in all, this error update perhaps didn't quite land as successfully as CG was probably hoping for it to land. I'm not really sure how they thought it would land, given I can't think, in my 7.5 years worth of playing this game, I can't think of a situation in the past where the game has been so heavily paywalled for content. Like, that Colosseum is literally just money. Like,
and the thing is too, though, is that is purely based on what our exposure has been to the game.
Yeah.
We've talked about this multiple times. It's the only reason it feels so incredibly paywalled is because the fact that you can't do anything the first full month the era is live, right?
Yeah.
You're stuck with very limited resources, very limited progression, very limited any and everything. And then, you kind of just have to wait for it to come around. But, like CG has said before, and they reiterate, is that completely free to play, you should be hitting era level 65 on all your characters, which is Gear 12 unlocks when the era concludes. And so for me, that's a huge advantage to everybody to get to Gear 12 for basically free. Mm-hmm. You don't lose the Kairos, the Carbantes, the stun guns. You got so much gear that's not going to get chewed up getting these characters up anymore. but it is absolutely the most boring 4 to 6 weeks of your life of just like, well, I go in, I press auto, I get on the leaderboard, and then I pray that I don't have too many whales in my shard or even dolphins in my shard to where I can still stay within the top 30 or so of a leaderboard, so that I can keep getting a decent amount of rewards towards Relic 10. But my alt only spent the $90 to get to level 45,
right?
And I haven't fallen out of top 10 in that shard
nice.
yet.
That's good going.
My main account would, if I'd done the exact same thing, would be in the same boat. Now I did go, bazooka bucks and go all the way out to level 70.
You bought the house, yeah.
Yeah, and so that one, there's 3 people in the shard that are staying at my area, and then everyone else is, significantly less. So I think there's a degree of like right now progression feels incredibly gated behind just a massive like $200 some odd paywall that you're not going to get to be a part of. But the thing is, we lack so much context as to where, what does just 7-star investment look like at the end of an era, and we're stuck with just the trust me, bro, it's going to be fine answer every time. And that's what I don't love, because like we looked at it, right? It's level 75, 80, somewhere in there is to get to gear 13.
75 gets you to gear 13. Yeah. So Relic 0, basically.
Relic 0, which is for any and everybody, that's a perfectly great place to be, because then you can just take all your gear 12 plus gear, turn that into Gerdas, turn that into Electrum conductors, turn that into Zimbitals, turn that into droid brains. You have so much more
business.
There's so many good things for that if you can get to that point. We just don't know what it takes to get there, and that's kind of the unfortunate side of things.
From what people were saying in my Discord the other day is that going 65 to 75 is based on what we know currently in the data mines. Like there is, even if you've whaled on shards, there's no way to get those levels without spending money on packs. So it's like, that's the part that's a little bit disappointing to me. I think it's only because when the announcement post came out and CG was like, we expect free-to-play people to get to gear 12, right? 3-star gear 12. If you get to 4 stars, you can go to 75. If yada yada yada, and basically they were saying by the end of it, 7 stars you get to 95, which can work out to Relic 6, right? Like they didn't say just based on stars you'll be able to get there, but they didn't mention the only way to actually go anywhere beyond gear 12 plus is if you actually drop real world money, regardless of if you've spent money on shards. And that's the part that disappointed me. I get it, but the way I look at it, in my current situation, I get plenty of gear. I take every new marquee to Relic 8. I'm not going to now spend money to take them to Relic 6. Because that's what I know the real money is the Colosseum, right? That's what you're actually spending your money on. The actual relic levels and all that sort of stuff is just kind of, it's kind of a way of incentivizing it further. But I guess that was just a bit of disappointment from me.
There needs to be a way that you essentially can get to level 70 or 75 with just a 7-star investment, because honestly, I feel like that's really cheap to be like, well, at $130 in on the character, all you're going to get is gear 12, which again, it's still not bad. I won't argue that that's not a bad
it's still
trade-off.
Better than what we used to, right?
But for a lot of end game accounts, it doesn't mean as much because of the fact that you're at a position to where I don't really worry about having enough gear to take a new character up anymore. That's not on my checklist of things to worry about. And so the value of getting those characters at gear 12, even though I've spent the money to unlock them, doesn't really excite me, because that's kind of the point where I think a lot of people get is, well, I've spent to get the character 7 stars, and granted there will be some advantage to that, the big one being the journey guide at the end, because you're stuck with whatever mall you can unlock with the stars that you have of the character. So that's your eventual payout. I think the unfortunate part of where this game sits right now is that we have so much that's 12 weeks down the line that it gets we get very lost in the weeds of where we are right now, and we can't really see the trees or the forest at what this looks like at the end. And that's partly why I'm trying not to be too critical of the system, mostly because it's just like I don't know where things go. But along the way, I do see a lot of the point that people are just upset that is it just I just wad cash up and throw it at you as a way to get these things a little bit higher level, or what's the argument?
Yeah. I agree with you. Like I have seen a lot of people say, not necessarily in this chat now, but in my Discord, say stuff like, "Oh, what's the point of even 7-starring a character now? What's the point in doing that?" And you didn't hit it on the head. It is like a big deal. Is you get the journey guide character. That is why we tend to rush new characters, is for new journey guide events and galactic legends and stuff like that. But let's not forget as well, there is the fact that at the end of this era, we are also getting the era battles. And if you want to engage in the era battles and get the good rewards from there, you're going to need to have them 7 stars and high relics as well. And the only way to do that is to whale early. So like there are those benefits haven't disappeared. They haven't gone anywhere. It's just this, and I was guilty of this too. There's been so much level of expectation that if you whale on shards for the new marquees, it's going to translate into Colosseum rewards, when in reality, you're no better off than somebody who spent no money on those characters, or you are marginally better off.
Yeah, you're marginally better off. You are able to beat tiers a little earlier by having the stars available. That's been kind of found, is that you can do some things a little earlier, but that's about it, because you need the stats to do enough, that extra crit damage or crit chance or whatever. You need that just to be able to do enough to sneak over when you get locked out of that 90% tier or whatever else that you would incur at that level. But the big picture is that the $90 to get to level 45 is the most I would recommend anyone doing. I don't think that that's a fair way for everyone to view the game of what it is, but it gets you in a decent enough spot for your Relic 10 rewards to stay at least comfortably in the top 30. If your entire shard isn't full of whales, you might be lucky enough to stay inside the top 10 if you do that. And the unfortunate part right now, we have no context of cost on Relic 10, right? Because Relic when Relic 8 to 9 came out, it was $150 to buy the 3 packs that would get you a Relic 9 from a Relic 8. And so I think that's kind of the general gist of where their head's at with this stuff, is that if you spend the $200 on each marquee, you'll get the 2 weeks of, you should be top 10, which means you should get your Relic 10 materials, which means you should be getting your full Relic 10 for that investment every 2 weeks, in theory. And I think that's kind of where they priced it, to be honest with you, is that's where they were putting it. Now, granted, that doesn't account for the other mats that you need, but with their massive easing of access to droid brains and arrow magnifiers, it should be more tolerable to sidestep that particular part. But we always know when a new Relic tier comes out that they're going to have a premium cost associated with that. And that's kind of what we're seeing with the packs that we have right now, is like, it's kind of a premium tier access to R10. And it's, unfortunately, we had this argument earlier this week, or I guess discussion's a better way of putting it, is right now Relic 10 means next to nothing for a lot of people, because it's not moving the needle very far. It's too rare to take a lot of teams up to Relic 10.
Oh, it's impossible, right? Like,
well, yeah.
It's massively time gated. Even the top end whales are still going to take nearly 3 weeks, right, to get an R10. A month.
Well, it'll take you.
It's 20 days if you were in top 10, right? 20,000. Oh no, it's not 20,000. It's not. It's more than that, isn't it?
It's 69 something for 10, and so you should get that basically every 2 weeks. So it should take you 2 months plus the free one you got from the anniversary to have your first R10 squad if you wanted to put it completely on one squad. But it's going to take time. That's where they're doing a lot of it. But the reality is, for a lot of it, is that it's just the reward doesn't seem worth it right now, and so it's hard to charge a premium on day old bread. It doesn't make sense to a degree. This is going to be one of those things where it's like when we get hit with Relic 11 in 6 to 9 months and we get to Relic 12, 6 to 9 months after that, then you're going to see that need to keep up with the Joneses because the window is shifting on what the expectations are going to be. And that's where they're going to get us is it's going to be, I will be very surprised if it takes more than a full year from right now to get to Relic 12. They did not wait that long to go from R8 to R9. Not even like 6 months, was it? To go from R8 to R9.
I can't remember. It was very quick, and I know that the whole Relic Delta system that they put into place obviously seems to be a driver to introduce more Relic levels in the future. But I think they're going to have to, if they are doing that, they're going to have to treat Colosseum in almost in the same way that they treat featured raids, where the Eris shop, essentially, when the currency that we use there is always going to be for the materials required for the newest relic, right? So server motors will move into the Jawa scavenger when a Relic 11 comes out.
Yeah, and
it's just going to be a constant treadmill like that.
And I feel like that's what they're going to do. They're going to push the ceiling up aggressively at the beginning because they need to. We need to make A, Relic Delta matter for endgame accounts, and B, we need to make investing into higher relics worth your time. And right now, until the stats start if they keep the trend of what they've done with the secondary stats, they added in Relic 10 where they added 10% crit avoidance, 10% potency, tenacity, and accuracy. If they keep doing 10% every time, by the time you get to Relic 12, you're at an increased 30% of those stats. That's going to be a huge thing for a lot of characters that have, mechanics based off of those.
Kenobi might hit something with his special. He might.
He might. Yeah. He might maybe. And so that's kind of the rub we get with it, is that there is a certain level of we haven't felt the pressure of to need to invest into it yet. No. But I am fervently going to believe that it's coming. I think it's going to 100% be one of those things where it's like we're gonna speed track to 12 because 12 is a big enough jump to where it's an RD3 from where we introduced the new stuff in the first place, where people are going to need to start investing, move forward, and then we can slow down after that and do one relic level a year. Every May the 4th or every anniversary we go Relic 13, Relic 14, 15, 16, because they're going to have to keep moving that progression up, and then they're just going to have to add more ways to get the previous relic tier after it falls out of Colosseum.
From their own words, they talked about for something to be desirable in the game, it has to be like accessible, and getting it and using it has to result in a reward for the player, right? So right now, Relic 10 is not really accessible, and it's not used anywhere either. Not really. Obviously, we can argue that Relic Delta is the use, right? But what I mean is there's no Relic 10 planets, there's no Relic 10 special missions, there's no Relic 10 unlock requirements. Not yet, anyway. And my current thing is there has to be, in the future, I can't see CG doing like the next, like, for example, right now we've got Spider-Maul. If people don't get him unlocked to 7 stars in this era, he's going to come back in like 3 months' time, and instead of being you need to have 7-star characters, he's going to now need relic requirements to get the unlock, right? I don't see them going, Spider-Maul is going to need 1 Relic 10 character, because there's no reasonable way for people, one, to build up enough, at least the vast majority of people, to build up enough materials to get a server motor to be ready for when he is there. Because it's going to be on a character that they have no idea about, right? We don't know what the actual relic requirements for him can be. And I'm using this as a for instance. I don't actually think Spider-Maul will have a Relic 10 requirement. I'm just saying they can't, right now, lock an unlock behind Relic 10 because it is too difficult for most people to get, and you can't actually wait on it. That's the weird thing. So it has to come from somewhere else, maybe in 6 months' time.
I think the first thing they're going to do is they're going to add a new tier to the raid where Relic 10 now adds a new box reward where you're getting more materials, and they might even add a Mark IV material to the raid, and that gets
Just
you
really
more
need
server
currency.
Modes.
Well, they could just add error currency, right?
They
Relic 10
could.
box adds relic currency, error currency.
They could. Yeah, they could do that as well. But I think that to me makes the most logical next step to do. But the thing is, too, is we know from the current raid setup that unless that box is ungodly high, you're still going to hit. Even if they put it like 675 million to get that new box, and it gets you, 2,000 of the era currency every twice a week.
Yeah,
whatever raid. Sorry, days. Whatever raid comes around. We can still hit that without having to have Relic 10 investment.
They could add it to the personal track for something that requires you to go, get to a certain point. I'm just checking, actually. I'm kind of curious. Is there a way for me to see how many points my guild scored last time on the raid?
It should be, you should be able to go to the leaderboard. And if you don't have a current one active, it should tell you what your guild scored.
I can see the individual scores. I'm wondering if there's a total now.
Think so. Well, you should be able to see the leaderboard for the entire game, and then that should tell
the global leaderboard. Yeah. So we got 623,835 last time, and we're nowhere near the top. And let's be honest, we could score higher than that, but it gets to a point you're like, why bother? Like I score
exactly.
If I've got the max personal box, I'm not pushing any harder. Like I don't care.
Yeah. Oh, that's. I mean, if mine didn't require, if anything beyond the teams I needed to get the guild average required remodding on my main account, I wouldn't run them.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna be that lazy. My alt does need to remod 2 of the runs because the teams are split in a way which it requires better stuff. But
so that being the point. Night's Watch, it currently has the highest score, and that's 773,845. So people are overkilling this raid massively at the moment, like 20%, 30% higher than what is necessary for max box, right?
Well, yeah. If everyone scored 18 million per, that'd be 900 million GP or 900 million points for the guild. Mm-hmm. So I think the reality is that they're going to add incentives in other parts of the game as a way to get those rewards in addition to what we're getting through Coliseum and through Whaling. It'll just be a slower pace, and they'll introduce it over time. Mm-hmm. I think what we'll end up doing is that when they get within 3 months of wanting to introduce the next tier, they're going to add it to different locations to start farming it to incentivize that tier, and then we're going to get the next tier up, the next piece, and then that replaces what we get with our era currency in the era store, and then they add a part, or they expand the era store to then just have multiple things. They lower the price of Relic 10. They make a Relic 11 components, the premium product, and then you just go back and keep spending that currency there. Whatever ends up coming down the line, they will have to put an incentive on it to make players want to keep investing into it. And so that's kind of where we're going to be at for the short term, is that there is going to be nothing for us to do with it. Besides just
I'm not
throw
surprised.
It on a gimmick character.
I'm not surprised that there's nothing for us to do with it really just yet, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if the new year brings in some way for us to effectively use Relic 10. Without it being, you need to unlock this character, therefore you need an R10,
I think I would not be surprised if the next Galactic Legend had an R10 requirement. Would not be surprised, but we're looking at 9 months down the road to a year from now. Mm-hmm. That wouldn't surprise me at all. But I could see them adding a lot of ways to incentivize that, either through.
Well, I mean, it's like you said earlier, though. It could be the next GL, or it could be the next raid comes with an R10 tier.
That's just one of the ways you can do it too. They could add R10 tiers to era battles. Mm-hmm. They could find have an R10 Spooder Mall to get 2,000 crystals every time the era battle comes back around.
To finally kill Kenobi.
Yeah. There are plenty of ways they can incentivize R10 without having to give it as a hard lockout on something to get access to it. so that way players have over the course of several months to build up a couple of R10s, have them sit in the bank, and then start applying them for different events or whatever else they come up with in the game. Those are all kind of options, but they will give us a reason to start investing into it, I think, within the next 3 to 6 months. I think right now it's more about getting the Coliseum off the ground, get the game modes built out, get everything functional, make sure Relic Delta is working the way they want to work. We've been having some weird interactions with that lately, and so I think right now it's between now and the end of the year, is literally just ironing out the issues, and then we'll see them expand as we move forward. But I do kind of want to quickly just pivot into the questions that we have in the Tribe Talks channel, because I've got a solid hour and a half left. And B, we've got a lot of pretty meaty check-ins, meaty questions to check in
meaty
on.
Check-ins. Love some meaty check-in. Yeah.
Well, I know somewhere out there, Meathead's blaming me for something, so I just feel like I need to utter his name every once in a while to get those spidey senses tingling.
It was nice of him to swing around on Friday night, and probably not what he was expecting to do. I certainly didn't expect him to turn up to 6 angry drunk men. Well, I wouldn't say we were angry.
We were jovial.
Passionate drunk men. No, that makes it sound like we're doing something else entirely. But yeah, he did show up for a bit. That was nice, I think.
Yeah, that was a good time. Well, I mean, we were able to keep it relatively out of the realm of, hey, you're not going to answer anything about Star Wars Galaxy Heroes. This is after your workday has ended. Let's just shoot the shit as a normal person for 30 minutes. I
definitely wasn't going to jump down his throat and be like, so Meathead, how about your work on a weekend? Yeah, no, that wasn't going to happen. He came there as a member of the community as much as anything else. I wasn't going to bombard him with questions. But hopefully we'll get him on Tribe Talks in the future. So anyway, should we do questions then?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So first question
and
I
will just real caveat real quick. For anybody who is typing their questions in chat, we miss those like a blind man going through a minefield. That was a terrible analogy, but anyways, my point is we don't really read the chat on the Tribe Talks podcast. We typically do from the Discord server. So if you do have questions that you want answered for that, or if you want to pose a question to devs, and it's not absolutely ludicrous, we will happily pass it along in there. We can do that as well. But please go to the Discord and grab that and put them there. Otherwise, I guarantee you I'm going to miss them because I don't want to scroll back through a ton of chat logs. And I don't want to, distract from any questions as we go through the priority list of what's been posted first. So I don't want to jump into chat and try to answer things, spend 20 minutes doing that, and then try to go back to the people who've submitted their questions in the right place for us to read through. So
absolutely.
That's where we're going to prioritize that particular area, just as a heads up to those of you in chat.
Yeah. So the first question comes from Vicetorn. He says, question, if you Relic 10 Darth Revan, would Leviathan plus Scimitar, the only reinforcement, always get to ultimate first, even on defense? Someone in my fleet shard has an R10DR, and I noticed in Mirror his Leviathan took a third turn before me, despite calling in Scimitar on second. Thankfully, the AI did not call Scimitar. If it had, to my understanding, he would ultimate first. Note, still possible to win without the ultimate if I take B28 with my Mark 6. He's put Mark 4, but I think he means Mark 6. So nobody in my fleet shard has done an R10 DR just yet, so I haven't been able to look at it, but I'm pretty sure Levy at R10 gets 3 speed to the capital ship.
It's not enough to make a change. The only reason to Relic 10 the Scimitar, or not the Scimitar, the Leviathan, is specifically because you want to try to save the 3 banners in GAC. That is the only reason I can tell you that you would be benefiting from it, is because you'll always go first unless your opponent then happens to have a Relic 10 Darth Revan as well. So it's not enough speed to offset the boost from the Scimitar. So they're never going to recover enough if you play it right. It should still be the exact same match. You're just always going second, or you're always going first.
it should as well. Like the enemy's Leviathan will always prioritize destroying your hangars before its reinforcement. So you should get your Leviathan out first and gain that 20 speed, and that should hopefully offset. It should hopefully offset the TM difference between when you get your reinforcement out, he's destroyed your hangars before he gets his second reinforcement out. Because if they do come in with Scimitar, they will still be 3 speed higher than you, but you should have offset the TM gains. At least enough to disrupt in the short term. I don't know that. I don't know if that is actually the case because I haven't tested it. But
there are some. So the only way this will work is under the like 15% chance that for whatever reason the enemy capital ship, like let's say if the enemy is Relic 10, and you're attacking them and they only have Scimitar as the reinforcement, there is a strong there's a small chance that they do not get the hanger sabotage, the debuff necessary to do that. And so instead of on its second turn destroying your hangars, it does try to reinforce. And if it does do that, if that circumstance does happen, then you're going to be screwed. But the reality is, for the most part, if you are playing it right and you're not just basicking, usually the only time that that it doesn't do the destroy the hangars is if you're basicing the entire time and you're not triggering enough ferocity or whatever else on their side to make sure that they're going to blow up the hangars.
Yeah, I think it's the thermal detonators you get from attacking the B-28. When you attack him, he puts thermals on you, and that's what gives them the debuffs. Ready to destroy your hangars. So you want to do that mass assist. You want to do the AoEs, all that sort of good business to make sure that they destroy your hangar. I'd like to test it out.
That's the only caveat where that would give you an advantage, and it'd probably only work once because they would still probably get to their Scimitar reinforced, not Scimitar, their Mark 6 and destroy something vital.
They can't, right? If they take the Mark 6 in. You're talking about your own? Your own. You will cripple it because, one, you will definitely destroy their hangars, so they'll lose the Scimitar for the second round, and then they've got no reinforcements on a Leviathan fleet, and you are going to get to your Mark 6, and your Mark 6 is going to insta-kill something.
It just fell off the door.
Oh, gosh. We'll have to get another one, babe.
He's in two!
Yeah, we've lost a wreath. Never mind, sweets.
What a pile of shite, he's made of bloody
styrofoam. Yeah. You're on camera, my lovely. Yeah. Sorry about that, guys. We've had a mishap in the Scribble household, and we've lost a Christmas wreath. Thank you, love. Sorry about that. It's something to be cognizant of, but I don't think it's not really going to. I don't think it's really going to impact long term. Maybe we'll find out. It might shake out differently in the future. So thank you, Vice Torn. Next question is from Will. Based on the new ship details page layout, do you think ship mods are incoming? I saw this. Do you see this, Karth? How they've rearranged everything, and it looks like there's a space for mods.
I think they just simplified the template to match character screens. I think we're inferring too much onto the system because ships are already chaotic for them, but the only reason to invest in pilots is because of relic levels. Like, you need the speed from the base relic material. I think if they introduce mods, they're going to need to completely overhaul ships, and I don't see that coming anytime soon because they have too much else on their plate to make the Coliseum and Era systems work. That I don't see it being anything more than they just simplifying the UI to not have a separate page for characters and ships. It's the same overlay. It's the same base thing. They're just shifting it all into one versus trying to separate it into two different pages. That's all I've got. I don't think it's anything else going from there.
I think it's probably, if anything, I feel like to me it's more about sort of homogenizing how the game looks from a UI perspective, so that, when you look at a fleet, it's the same setup as when you look at a character. And it gives them the creative space in the future if they ever want to add anything there. Personally, I would like something like fleet mods. I would like a way to add a little bit of separation that you can include on ships.
Relics. More relics.
No, because that would be the same thing. That would just lift everybody up to the same stats. It's like just adding an extra gear level. I want to be able to manipulate my stats and make my ships behave differently to someone else's.
The only actually, I'll caveat this back with one thing. The only argument that I've seen as a net positive for ship modding, even if they simplify it, to very basic things, the argument that I've seen is that there are turn orders that are ideal for certain combat experiences, where if you overinvest in the team, you've permanently screwed that up because there's not a way to invest the other teams high enough to get that ship low enough. Yeah. So then you either have to start stripping mods or whatever else to get the ship slow enough to then make them go back and forth.
Goes against their own ethos, right?
Which that is the only argument I can see where you could do something of a more simplistic modding system for ships, not like what we have for character mods, but like a separate, like mini gear system for ships, to where it's like, you get a different components that you get to improve on, like the deflector shield and your laser cannons and XYZ, and they add different percentages where you can kind of mess around, and then the set bonuses maybe give you enough to tweak turn orders enough to make things work. But I don't want anything complicated like we have with our current stuff, because I don't want it to be another farming mess that I have to go through and deal with every day as farming ship mods, especially when you're already 100 and some odd ships in. It's just like,
and I definitely feel like if you ever played, I know you did, but for the people at home, if you ever played Heroes of Middle-earth, the other game that CG made, they introduced the exact same concept of modding to that game, but when you looked at the stats and the way that they did it, it was far lower, especially on the speed front, than what we have in Galaxy of Heroes. So there's obviously learnings that they've made from Galaxy of Heroes that they took over to that game, almost as a, hey, if we had a do-over on how we do mods, this is probably how we would do it now. And I think if it happened to ships, I don't think it would be a case of, oh, you can just use your normal mods and put them on fleets. I think they would redesign it into so it would look like something different. And if that's the case, I don't see us getting like 30 speed secondaries. I see us getting like, 10
it'd be,
at the most.
It would be like you'd have set bonuses that give 10 speed or a primary that gives 5 speed or whatever else. And so it's like, you'll balance it back and forth on what type of ship it is and turn order to make it make sense, kind of thing.
Yeah. So who knows? Maybe in the future. I think if anything comes, it'll be different. So next question is from Grant Almighty. Ignoring this era of lifters, you'd only get 2 eras of tunes before the next raid. You got to think they'll spend some extra time in shipments before going farmable. With era units locked away for 3 months, do you think they'll get away with another pirate like Delayed Faction next raid, where you use a single member we acquire for months on end? Is it fair to speculate that the next raid will be more legacy focused than Order 66, and the push will instead be for R10? It's a good question.
With the new system, I honestly believe that the Order 66 raid is going to run longer than we anticipate. I think the Order 60 raid will run for the equivalent of probably another year from right now. It's a good balance of effort and time. It's a good balance of investment and time. It's just overall probably the best raid they put in that scratches the itch of, once I have the thing, it does the thing. And so I can't see them trying to move away from that too quickly, especially with everything else they're trying to implement here. But then on top of that, I feel like they are going to want, with the new era system, since you cannot use these characters until the era is over, I think there is more time for them to get things out the door and then drop them on us at a later date. And so I think they're just going to wait to be like, okay, these characters are going to be the next raid. The raid will launch mid following era kind of thing.
Or they're going to have to start dropping raids where thematically it's not quite as constraining as something like Order 66, where it's like,
Well-
it doesn't make sense that pirates are there. They could do something far broader, more generic, like a Terrantetic, for example, right? You could do a Terrantetic raid. I imagine we'll probably get Terrantetic in Colosseum at some point, but that's neither here nor there.
I mean, that'd be a great asset to reuse from the Jedi Knight
exactly.
Revan.
It's a cool boss, right? But having something like that, and they're like, oh, okay, so Era of the Anniversary, you can use Stormtrooper Han's team with new Stormtrooper Luke. You can use Vader with EP Mara Jade and Spiderlegs Maul. You can use, basically all the team Tarful with Yoda and Chewbacca, for example. So you've already got this one era, and it's essentially 6 different teams, right? I wouldn't be surprised if they do something like that. But we don't know, of course. It does feel like it's going to have to get pushed out just because of the nature of how we get characters.
Well, the big issue is with the way the new era system works. There's no incentive to be early. There's only an incentive to be ready at the end.
Yeah.
And so I don't see a reason for them to launch a raid preemptively. I think it is better for them to not have a repeat of Order 66 where we have to piece together everything at launch to get a decent team set up, and then as time progresses we're able to backfill with better and better teams. I think it's better for them to wait until everything's out and then just shoot it a little short after that. 6 weeks after the era ends, the raid comes. If you're not whaling, you're not getting there. But that was the problem that we had with pirates in the first place. If you weren't whaling, you weren't there early on them anyway, so it didn't really matter to you. You were going to be stuck dealing with what you can. I think they should do more to have a few more operational teams on Square Zero than just, Keller and Beck and co.
Yeah, but people didn't really react very positively to that.
No, but I think what you're also going to see is the same thing. You're going to find they're going to find ways for the era teams to make up enough comps to make it that they'll make up a good portion of the score, and then there'll be enough left over where they can kind of backfill some stuff in. But I think that's where we're going to be in the thing moving forward. It's a lot less focus on everything from the era being the priority. It's going to be them grabbing a couple of key characters and then dodging mechanics around that. The same thing that they've done with the Naboo raid with the healer tag and things of that nature. They'll just find a way to make you invest in the characters you don't care about.
Oh, God, yeah. I fully expect that to happen. Absolutely. I mean, I'm not against the Order 66 raid running longer. It gives me more time where I don't have to invest in a bunch of new raid characters. So I love it.
You want to R9 those Bad Batches? Come on.
No, I don't. They quite happily have them at R8. I mean, my OG Omega is R9, but that's a whole different story. Okay, next question.
Batcher, so.
Well, it's true. Yeah. Next question comes from Bubba Joe. One of the biggest complaints of the new update is the new currency for advancing the characters. What if, instead of the new era model, they simply rolled out new materials for the new characters and only provided packs for getting those materials until such time that they give some away for free? The new model looks exactly like the old model if you don't have a massive backlog of legacy materials, gears, and relic. So in an effort to make things better, what if this new era gear from this era also carries over to the next era and so on and so forth, so that rewards from the Colosseum in this era could be banked into that's exactly what they don't want, Bubba Joe. They don't want you to be able to like this is one of my big bugbears about this is at the end of the era all of your era materials get converted into credits, which is it's not a dead currency, but it's not a currency many people need a lot of.
Could it be shipbuilding materials? Just asking for a friend?
I would be a lot happier if it was shipbuilding materials, because that's still a massive crunch. You have no idea how annoyed I get when I go to the mod store and there's a 5-speed secondary mod with crit damage on the triangle, and it's like 3 million fleet credits, and I'm like, but I have 7 million fleet credits.
Yeah, I need these in case later.
Yeah, just in case.
Yeah, the thing of it is that the you're basically going to get these characters to gear 12 for free. That's their mantra, right? So I get that people aren't happy with all the new materials that you need to improve the era levels on these characters to get them up higher quicker. But they basically are going, you're getting them for gear 12 for free by the end of the era. The only part that sucks about this is you're going to have to wait the better part of 12 weeks to get there. So for that portion of it, I'm just like, I don't know if I'm really going to be fussed about how they decided to monetize the era levels. What I really want to know by the end of this is what investment level does it take on each character to get to level 75 or 80? Because like I don't give a shit about relic 1 to 8 because I've got thousands of carbonite circuit boards and bronzium conductor, and I got thousands of those. It's where I get to electrum conductors where I start to fall off. If the end level of this, like level 95 was the better part of like, you know, relic 8, then okay, maybe we could have a conversation about this being worth the payoff to get to these characters to this level. But relic 6 is kind of inconsequential to me at least, and for somebody who would spend, I don't feel if $90 can get me there, I'm not spending the extra 130 to just get, you know, 5 relic levels for free. Like I don't care. So that's where I'm at right now. That's what I want to know by we get to the end of it. And then yeah, the whole point of their currency is to have it disappear so that everyone is on equal footing every time we get a new era that comes out. They have grander ideas than what we're seeing right now, and that's the unfortunate part, is that we are looking at a ship in an iceberg, but we only see the pointy end of the bow sticking out. We have no idea what goes beyond that, and we're just making assumptions based off of what we can see. And so we're stuck in this perspective of CG as a whiteboard in their conference room of what the full scope of the era and Coliseum and everything they're going to add to that will look like over the next coming months. And we're stuck with, we have a very boring Coliseum with very nothing to do besides go in and press auto. If you feel like you need that extra few hundred points, you'll try to time it perfectly to get, you know, a few extra points to try to move up the
burn
bracket.
Through all of your uses to get good RNG, so you don't get AoE'd in the first wave, or you know.
Yeah, so there's a few things that will happen with that you have to kind of, you know, play properly. But for right now, it's nothing, because it's not interesting. When they add legacy units to it that we can loan, and there becomes a strategy that you can build around some of these teams, it'll be more intriguing, because there'll probably be better characters for better bosses as the era progresses, where you can use multiple teams, that you might score better with, you know, Aphra and the new droid than you would with just having Luke and the new droid on the same team, which is what we'll have to do next marquee. But it is one of those things where it's like we are just stuck staring at the very beginnings of the process, and the answer just keeps coming back of, well, it'll get better, trust me, bro. And I'm just like, I don't want to say I doubt CG. What I'm saying is the track record has never really been in their favor for that response. It's getting better, but that's always been the problem, is we get a promise but with no timetable. So it's like, you know, luckily with this one, they did give us a lot of like the economy improvements with this update. But you remember the gear overhaul when the hyperdrive bundle came out, right? It took months and months and months to see that roll out, and we never really got the full picture of what they promised to a degree, right? We got most of it. We got, you know, what their words said, but what we inferred from that, and we had run rampant with for like months on end, never really came to fruition. And so we're kind of at this point again where it's like, well, you keep saying the words, but I don't know if you know what those words mean.
People don't like to operate in the dark. Especially when it's such big changes. Next question comes from Bomber. How you doing, Bomber? What do you guys think the modding would be for Stranger? So he is our next conquest unit. Fast, healthy, offense, and what primaries? I tend to stay away from looking too deeply into modding for brand new characters, because ultimately, especially with Stranger, we don't even know what Maul's kit is yet, right? So
that's the biggest issue, is we don't know what like Maul's going to do on that, and he's going to be a critical part of that particular team. So I'm a little aghast. Is that fan coming through on the mic?
No, I can't hear the fan.
Okay, good.
I almost feel like speed almost doesn't matter so much on Stranger, because he gains an obnoxious amount of speed, doesn't he?
Well, it really comes down to, unfortunately, like the battle situations we're going to use him in, because he's not the fastest character in the world, right? Base speed of 174.
It's okay.
He does
terrible.
He does get he does get ramping speed. During his turn, he gains 50 speed for the first time. The ability is used in 1 speed plus 1 per relic amplifier, max of 10.
Yeah.
Each subsequent use, stacking the max triggers of 50 times for the rest of the battle. So it's like you're going to want to play a certain level, but I think for the most part, I think he's going to be more of a, even though he's an attacker, he kind of reminds me of Savage with the Omicron.
Yeah,
where,
a little bit.
Yes, he's an attacker, but he needs to survive. He needs to just be able to soak up hits. My guess would be that you'd build him a bit more of a bruiser build for those League of Legends buffs out there, where you're kind of building into, you want some damage, but you want a lot of survivability, because he's pretty squishy. Relic 8, he's at 54,000 health, 57,000 protection.
Yeah, it's not very tanky at all. No,
you can, Relic 10, he goes to 62 and 66. So it does jump up a little bit at Relic 10, but you're gonna want a degree of survivability on him, is my first guess. Quick is never gonna hurt him. You're still gonna want him probably well into like the 330 range, but I don't think you're gonna be looking at him in the respect of like you want absolutely, as much offense as you can get or as much speed as you can get. I don't think
he's got 3 different sources of a one-time insta-kill. So I really do feel like it is a case of he's designed to keep him alive until those insta-kills trigger, and that's going to swing the battle in your favor pretty drastically, I would say, in most scenarios. Obviously, I don't think... Oh, well, no, because Malakos isn't in the team. I don't think there's a revive prevention in his kit, is there? I can't recall.
I think that there... Honestly, I can't tell you. I want to say that there is, but
it's been a while since I looked at his kit. So it's a good question. I'm sure it's. I
know in the interim, while you don't have Spooderlegs Maul, well, it won't really matter unless you don't invest him right away, because Barris can, Inquisitor Barris can work as a 5th for the team until you get Spooderlegs Maul. And her unique does have a revive prevention in it.
Okay. Yeah, that's quite nice.
I don't know if he does as well. But yeah, either which way, I think you're going to want like a relatively quick and bulky. It feels like damage may or may not be the biggest concern with him, because he's walking with Starkiller. Starkiller is going to give a ton of stats and annoying
and survivability and decrease the damage of the enemy if they've got debuffs on them.
75 speed in GAC is going to be nutty.
There's a lot.
So
Starkiller brings to that team for sure. Yeah.
I don't know. My gut says speed, bulky, but with some speed on it. And then we'll just see what breaks loose over the course of time. Once we actually have them in the game and we can play it.
That are fast. Crit damage and triangle for fun. Don't know though, really, Bomber. We'll have to wait and see, I think, ultimately. But
that's just where my head goes.
Yeah. So JKD Mike asks, isn't there a major flaw in the way that people keep analyzing the utility of a Relic 10 Jedi Master Luke? Everyone keeps talking about the rest of the team being less relict, so they'll be affected by Relic Delta in a negative way. The problem is nobody has considered that it works both ways. If all 4 other characters on the team call JML to assist, you get more R10 damage, not less. Obviously provided on the target that you're hitting. Wouldn't that mitigate the concerns that people are having about R10? Not saying we should R5 the rest of the team, but if they're within 2 relic levels, it's good. My first thing for that would be, if you're calling in JML, you are not hitting ultimate. And I know people like to poo-poo JML's ultimate, but it is still a very powerful ultimate. Being able to ignore taunt on the enemy team for all of your Jedi, being able to double the mastery on your team, it is useful. But you are right in essence that if you call JML and he's Relic 10, he's going to positively benefit from Relic Delta quite drastically. But I would argue that you're better off just going, and this is what I plan on doing if I do ever get to R10 JML, is just R9 Cal Kestis, because that's who you really want to be calling in with a JML team, because you can attack under protection if you've gone into cross guard stance. I can't remember the name of the different
That
stances.
sounds about right.
So yeah, and R9 Jedi Knight Cal Kestis isn't a bad investment, and at worst, he's probably only going to be a relic delta of nothing. The broader thing outside of just the damage with JML is if you've got R5 Jedi, they are going to hurt whenever you get faced off against enemy that have got AoEs, like Lord Vader teams and stuff like that. They'll drop pretty quickly. Thoughts, Garth?
The short is the idea is good. It's like it's a benefit to call it into them, but it slows the rest of the mechanics down so bad, and it really fights the proper way to use the team right now with Jedi Knight Cal. And so it's kind of one of those things where it's like, yes, you are correct that does benefit if you're calling in Luke, but it slows down the ult, it slows down the core mechanic that team relies on right now, which is getting Cal to start yeeting people out or to start get to his instant defeat as quickly as he can to get ahead of the other team by going into a 4-5 situation. That I think you're fighting the mechanics too hard. So the only way that really works is if you're not fighting, top meta teams and you're just looking at kind of dunking on some nerds. You could take a Relic 10 JML with Relic 5 Jedi, call him in all the time and benefit from that exchange. But I don't think on the grand scale that without at least a Relic 9 on JML's team, Relic 10ing him while he's more durable isn't going to move the needle meaningfully, because the second Relic Delta changes, it will impact how much true damage that ability is doing.
Yeah. Good question there, JKD Mike. Thank you so much, buddy. Next one comes from Darth Lucius 2326. So I was looking at the era level up packs, and I noticed there that it said only applicable to this era only. Unused materials will convert to credits at the end when the era ends. Does this mean every era we have to start over and hope for the best? Why can't we just use tens of thousands of training droids that are now collecting dust in our accounts for us mid to end game players? Also, Sam Witwer when? That's a bit of a tongue twister. Only he can help us get closer to the proxy and the lovely Junior Eclipse. Yeah, I think we've kind of addressed this in the conversation so far, but it's kind of by design.
Yeah, it's just by design to keep bringing players back to equal footing at the beginning of each era. That's their whole point. There will be a larger argument for that as we progress. Unfortunately, we're stuck at a time where we don't know enough about what the era system is going to include that makes this make sense. But when it's all in, it'll make more sense. We'll have an understanding as to why that system has to be the way that it is. But it's the same reason why they do it with Datacrons, right? Is they do not want us to have an ability to just farm tons and tons of Datacron mats beyond what we need and then just quit investing every time a new set rolls around, because you have 10,000 of those materials and 10,000 data, or 10,000 data cache, 10 hundreds of million of data cache, whatever it is now.
Absolute diminishing returns, and there's no way to get that tier 3 reroll mat to roll over.
Yeah,
it's always going to disappear, so they force you to farm more. But in essence, they said they want everybody to be on an equal footing, so they don't want people that have got thousands and thousands of gear pieces being able to upgrade their new characters straight away. They want you to be on the same footing as everybody else to make it feel like it's an equitable battle. In reality, it comes down to it is equitable, but obviously it's a game mode that includes things that you can buy for real world money, and therefore the people that spend real world money are going to be out of reach of the people that don't, and that is the main driver for this game mode, which it is what it is, guys. None of us here like it. There we go. So Bobby Bucket asks, what improvements would you like to see to Colosseum to make it more acceptable, fun, and better for the community at large? Also, what tips would you give CG to better help mitigate certain disasters on rollouts? That's a good question.
I think you have a nice video that covers a large portion of the first part of that particular question.
I do.
I would recommend to the people here to go watch that, because that could unwind into a very, very long conversation here.
Yeah.
As for the second part, though, communication would have been freaking huge to lead this with, like, to set expectations at a reasonable tier would have been, I think it would have been received better. We would have still been equally as disappointed, but we would have been knowing that we would have gone in being disappointed at the start versus finding out after we spent $300 on a new marquee unit to find out that it didn't mean a damn thing for the most part. There's just no real ROI on that particular amount of whaling or the game mode right now. It's just not, exciting.
So yeah, as Karth said, I do have a video out for it. I do think what Karth is saying about communication would have really helped. I know that they can always say, we told you you'd get to 65 for free, but unless you tell us how that's going to happen, and then you put in my mind, I cannot get around this. But releasing a game mode, not explaining to players, especially those who never go to the forums, never go on Reddit, never go on YouTube, never do anything, which is the majority of the people that play this game. You do not give them any explanation about how to get from error level 0 to 65, but you do throw packs in their face that say, hey, look, you can spend money. I don't like that, and I think that has rubbed so many people the wrong way, that they need to be absolutely explicit, because it feels like they're just trying to trick you into spending money. Okay, and that is not a good look. How to make Colosseum more fun for me is you have to front load those levels. Like, don't drop us in at error level 5. There's no room to have enjoyment there. You have to drop us in at like 25, 30. And then slow it down. So the end position is still the same, but let's bottom fluff so people can have a little bit of use and utility in the abilities.
So
at the start.
What I'm hearing you say is that we need more of a bell curve and less of an exponential growth chart.
100%. Yeah.
It's like we should start here. As we progress throughout the middle, we get more, and then as we come towards the end, we level off, so we still wind up at that same mark. Yeah. But you're not stuck at level 7.
Yeah, exactly. With level 2 abilities that don't actually do anything, and you're doing 100 damage a hit. It's like, it's not fun.
Damage. Maybe a support ability. Go.
Yeah. You heal for 60 health. Congratulations.
Yeah. Well, and again, I think the system will be better when they bring in the loaned units, because it will give you a little bit of variety of what you can do.
Definitely. Yeah.
In those cases. And then, I don't know. I think the unfortunate part is just the way, with just Colosseum being the only thing here, it is just the era system does not feel flushed out enough to adequately judge it and go, well, this is what we should change. I'm like, well, you might address a large portion of that in a future update where you add something back in here that makes this more relevant for me to be playing than just showing up, pressing auto once a day and calling it from there.
Yeah. Lots of things need to change, in my opinion. But hey, we'll see. I don't expect any drastic changes anytime this year now. CG are in wind down mode and probably putting out fires before they go away for the holiday period. So
and this has been the general vibe that we've kind of gotten from them is anything major change wise is coming with the next era update, which is going to be the next era itself. So January, February of next year is when you're seeing anything major. So I just want to get that out in front of people as an expectation setter, is like, do not expect anything besides really bug fixes and core gameplay mechanic fixes with this era. And then kind of expect new features to kind of roll in as new eras come to the game. I think with that is that if you know that right now, it'll won't have you excited for every update to be like, are they going to add something new? No, bitch. Suffer like the rest of us.
Yeah, pretty much. All right. Next question is from All You Can Eat Breadsticks, which sounds like a wonderful time. I love breadsticks. So a
Olive
breadstick
Garden
buffet.
steps into the chat.
I've heard of Olive Garden. I've heard of and breadsticks get mentioned frequently.
I don't know if they're all you can eat anymore. They used to be, but they might charge you now. Anyways, beside the point.
Those
next
bastards. As an endgame player that bounces between Kyber 2 and Kyber 1 at 13 million, is it time for me to build teams vertically instead of horizontally? If so, do you think it's more beneficial for me to bring teams to a minimum of Relic 7 and then focus on tanks or attackers for Relic 8 and 9, or some other strategy? I've done well with my main squad members at R5, but it's looking like that time has passed. Good question. Good question.
The short answer is that your top, for 3v3 requires 30 teams, so which is 90 characters.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what you're going to end up having to look at to a degree. Depending on what you're fighting, what you're seeing a lot is the smart answer is yes, Relic 7 is going to be kind of your wheelhouse for where you want to start bringing characters up to and investing into, for the pure sake of it is better to be as small Relic Delta as possible. And with an RD2 in things working properly land, it shouldn't have a massive impact on your performance of the squad if it was already a hard counter to that particular squad. We see that quite a bit, that shouldn't be changing too drastically. But as for what you focus in on after that, it really depends on what you're hunting and what you need to be worried about, because there are things that where you need your main, if the counter relies on someone eating dicks for 4.5 minutes, that someone better be thick.
Yeah.
If your counter relies on Malicos smashing absolute booty cheeks, then he better be Relic 9, because you cannot afford to have him take even a 10% damage cut. Because if somebody happens to live, you might just be on SOL streak while you wait for the next big hit to come around. You may not survive that anymore.
I definitely want an R9 Malicos. Just side note.
Yeah, but it's going to be one of those things where you kind of have to pick out what you're fighting against to where that relic improvement is going to be useful. I think the important thing for a lot of players is, if you're going to be fighting in Kyber 2 and Kyber 1, is that you need to get your teams to Relic 7, at least your main fighting force, and then be much more thoughtful on what your counter is designed to do. It's like when you're taking Leia versus Ahsoka, R5 Jyn, not really a deterrent for you, because she gets lower quicker, which forces the AI to attack her more. It gives you a little bit of a more safety on that, because they don't want to go after Adrad, because Jin's the bigger, she's so much weaker, they want to go after her. It doesn't mean that it won't happen, but you're not really pressed in that scenario.
Tends to try and focus down the weaker characters.
But when you're like Jedi Master Luke versus clones, if you have Relic 5 Jedi going into clones, the AoE from Apo and Disguised Clone Trooper could just upend your day very, very quickly. Yep. So with those ones, you might want to get to R7 or even, a little bit higher than that, depending on what you're facing, because you're going to need to minimize that damage capacity as much as you can. So you'll have to be a little bit more thoughtful on the teams that you're countering with what you're countering. You're going to have to be a little bit more thoughtful, and unfortunately a little bit more predictable, because you can't just throw things to the wayside because it doesn't matter that you have a Relic 5 trench anymore. Relic 5 trench into a Relic 9 Ray is not going to do the same thing that he was doing a week ago. That's kind of gone into the way of the dodo. So there are counters that are going to change holistically because of what Relic Delta has done. And there will be counters that don't change at all because you're further exploiting the same mechanics that were already present. So the short answer is that, most of what you need to be is moving to Relic 7 on a lot of your major counters. And then there's the, granular of like, this character doesn't really need it, don't worry about it kind of thing. And proceed from there.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll definitely echo what Cart's saying. I mean, I've taken the same approach on my account. Relic Delta came in, I took my Traya team from R5 to R7. I've taken Jedi Knight Revan, Hermit Yoda to Relic 7 from Relic 5 because historically they haven't needed to be any higher. You know, if they worked for everything that they're using. So the way I'm looking at it is, what are my most frequently used offensive and defensive teams? Shore up those relic levels where they are low. If they are 3s, R4s, R5s, get them up to R7 if you can, and then focus on individual units that you think are a linchpin within those teams. And consider taking them higher if you have the capacity. That would be my high level way of getting it done. And as always, with these things, modding still is crucially important. Datacron farming, if you're in if you're swimming in Kyber 2, high Kyber 2, Kyber 1, you're going to be facing a lot of players with a lot of good Datacrons. The only way to counteract that is to have equally or better Datacrons in your roster. So don't get blinded by just the Relic Delta. For example, I gave Womprat some advice in his GAC the other day. He was facing down R9 to R7 Inquisitors, but they didn't put Marok in defense, so we used Phoenix with GBA. And Womprat's Phoenix were like R7 max, but most were R3, and we still full banned that. So certain counters, the Relic Delta matters lesser. So just do a little bit of research around that sort of thing. So where you can make savings, try to do so. Cool. Thank you, all you can eat breadsticks. I love breadsticks. I want some hummus with mine, please. Next up is Smasher Bob. He asks, how's it hanging? It's hanging great, buddy. Thank you for asking.
Little to the left.
Small, shriveled, and slightly to the left, yes.
Yep.
With the new changes to the game, Colosseum Relic 10, are fleets dead, or could they incorporate ship releases into Space Colosseum? And should we be battling Purgils in Space Colosseum? I mean, clearly, yes, it is the whale mode, so Purgils would make sense.
It would make sense. Fleet's dead, no. Should they incorporate it? No. I think we should just keep fleets altogether separate from anything to do with the era system in totality. Even with new ship marquees, it's not a part of the era system. It'll just be a marquee that releases separate to everything else. But no, it's not dead. Fleets are the same thing that they were prior to Colosseum and Relic 10 and everything else. It's the same kettle of fish. So no, not dead. Don't want it in Colosseum.
No. I mean, it does raise the question of how do they incorporate future fleets? Because it can't really be through the era system, because it just doesn't mesh, right?
But it doesn't have to be. We can go back to Galactic Chases. We can do standalone era or era events or whatever else. Or
it can be legendary unlocks. It can be technically Galactic Legends. It can be conquest units, and it can be Galactic Chases. So far, unless they do figure out a way. Now, I'm hoping that we see a return of Galactic Chases, and it stays in the old thresholds of spending, where it was like, oh, you can spend like 10,000 crystals and you'll get a 7-star ship. That was great. So we'll have to wait and see. Thank you, Smasher Bob. Next one comes from Jersey Joker. Did anyone else not get their daily leaderboard rewards? I was 58th and got nothing. This is getting ridiculous at this point.
You answered that in general chat, and I was one of the people that brought that to CG's attention the day it happened.
Yeah.
This is just a friendly recircle that public service amount. You must claim the rewards before you start the new Colosseum battle for the day. You must claim your rewards. If you do not claim your rewards before you start the next battle, they go away. This has been identified what the issue is. They're rectifying it in the next patch update, which I believe comes next week.
Yeah, Tuesday usually, isn't it?
But they did put out a little PSA about it, and I will just reiterate the PSA. You must claim your rewards at the refresh before you start your Colosseum battles. I understand that that's stupid and it's annoying, and they're going to fix it, and they'll give us some sort of back pay for it at some point in the future. I don't have any answer on that, but the right now is that you just got to collect it first.
Yeah. Everybody gets 1,000 error currency into their inboxes for all the missed stuff. Everybody, it's the only equitable way of doing it.
No.
I think
everyone
I should
gets
get
14,000.
Oh, okay. Sorry, 2 weeks worth of first place rewards.
Yeah,
just give us everything.
I'll settle for 7,000. Just give me 1 week's worth of first place top 10 rewards.
Yeah.
That it took them a week to fix it. I think that's fair.
That's fair. Yeah. And 3 Clone Wars Chewie shards, obviously. So yeah, you have to go into the lead when you go into your Colosseum battles on every new day when it refreshes. You have to click that leaderboard button. It's got a big red 1 next to it, but fucking make sure you press it before you try and do a battle. Otherwise, there is a very high likelihood that you do not get anything for your daily rewards, which is absolutely shit. And the faster they fix it, the better off everything will be. So yeah, I feel for you. I feel for you, brother. Next up comes from Waldo704. Anyone else make it past round 1 of Colosseum with all 5 characters and only have 4 in round 2? He's lost Choda basically in the past 2 days. Yes,
that is a feature, not a bug.
Yeah.
That is intentional. As you progress in tiers, you get less and less loaned units. Now you will get those units back once you've unlocked them in the era system, and that you'll be able to incorporate those into your battles as you go. But for the first one, as you move up in tiers, you lose a character. It's like I'm in tier 4 right now on most of them, and it's just me and Vader. Luke and Vader is the only 2 that I've got left.
So father, son, and team.
Yeah, so you lose Asajj when you go from 2 to 3, and then when you go from 3 to 4, you lose Barriss. It is a feature. It is in their description of things. Again, one of those things that was not well communicated. And people spend so much time in tier 1, considered to the average whale, that they didn't understand or get exposed to that quickly enough to understand why that was occurring. And so, yes, it's unfortunate that they don't explain it better. But it's the same thing I've been posting in Discord for a week now is, have you read the unique ability Roar of the Crowd? It'll explain why you get reduced to 1 damage.
Yeah.
Sorry, it sucks.
It's
but
it's a shitty game mechanic, but it's the mechanic that we have.
it's just what's there. But it's unfortunate they do not do a tutorial mission on it where they explain the modifiers, because it's like I didn't know the first time I got reduced to 1 damage. I was like, well, this is gay. Like, what do I even do? Like, is it 1 damage for the last 30% of the fight? Do I just stay alive for fucking 35 minutes and click away?
Arnold had a 10-hour long stream on it, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Jesus Christ.
10-hour AFK stream. I think he was AFK. I was streaming at the time, so I have no idea what was actually going on.
I believe he was. I think he just, all it did was show up every hour and put a poll as to which, how fast he should run it from 1x to 4x.
Fair enough. Okay, so yes, thank you. It's intended to lose that character. Next question comes from Bodhi. How you doing, Bodhi? How much are you looking forward to the 3 hours after each era ends and GAC locks in, where you need to finish off relics and add mods for 7 new characters? Yeah, it's going to kind of be
6,
shitty, but plus the journey guide as well, right?
Well, we got the journey guide event, right?
Journey guide comes with a 5th character, so you will have the journey guide unlocked by the time we get Vader, which is the last character. You will be able to get a 7-star unlock.
He is not the last character. We have 6 characters.
Yeah, Vader's the last one.
Yeah, but he's not the 5th character. He's the 6th character.
Yeah, no, yeah, but what I'm saying is when you get Vader, you will be able to unlock Maul full 7 stars. Now, it will still be an era character until the era ends, so you can actually use Maul within Colosseum.
Ooh.
Which will... Ew.
Spooder Maul.
Exactly. So yeah, for people that are whaling, it is going to be 7 characters that you have to go through. Depending on how far you took the era levels, you have to throw on some gear, put all the relic levels on, do all the modding for them in time for GAC lock-in, which... Something tells me that either the era ends on Monday
or on Wednesday.
Yeah, so
because
I hope so.
I hope it's Monday, because I want 24 hours to do that. Otherwise, I am going to be just right up in the closest CG operative that I can find and just be like, hey,
no.
I have spent so much money on this bullshit over the last 12 weeks, and you're giving me 2.5-hour window to remod for 6 different teams and then lock in for GAC. Where is the closest off ramp for me to go tell you to go fuck yourself? Because I need to hit that at full speed. Because that would really annoy me. Because it's like it's fine when it's one character, but when it's 7 brand new characters for 7 different teams, I still haven't even figured out where I'm going to use everybody yet. I was spending part of this morning trying to figure out what the ideal new Vader team was going to be, and
Yeah, it really doesn't give you a whole lot of time to do that.
No, and I don't even know if
you
turn
imagine,
order is going to matter or whatever else.
And we won't know because we haven't been able to test any of it, right?
Yeah.
Because we don't have the teams. But can you imagine nobody is going to be able to remod with hot utils? Nobody, because the servers are just going to get absolutely pounded. So hot utils won't load for anybody. Like at the end of the era, that 3 hours before GAC, you're going to have to do it the old-fashioned way, baby. Manual modding. So get saving your mods to one side. Build the mod setups ahead of time.
Well, you have to build the mod setups, but then you have to build the mod setups, and then you have to pull those mods off of those characters so that you can backfill the mods appropriately, so that when it comes to doing the team, you don't have to then remod the other 18 characters that you pulled mods from.
Yeah. I'm really hoping that Swigger.gg is going to implement a way of including error characters into your roster build so that you can already preload the mod requirements. Because that would save us a hell of a lot of trouble, basically. But obviously, that's still shit for everybody who doesn't use hot utils, and you should never be mandated to use a third-party app to try and get the best out of a system that is built within the game. But I digress.
Yeah.
I digress. So thank you, Bodhi, for depressing us all. Next question comes from Operation Rebirth. Oh, actually, no, that's not a question. He's answering questions in our question section. Don't do that.
Yes, I know, right? It's like read the pinned message at the top.
Yeah, it's the reason it's pinned.
Just take it back to general. It's okay. I promise.
Jar says, do you think there are major changes upcoming for ships or territory wars anytime soon? Both game modes seem to have really been forgotten about. We can only hope. Rebellions are built on hope. CG has been quite tight-lipped about that. I'm hoping
within the next 6 months. Nope. No, not going to happen. If that's your definition of soon, then no.
Yeah. But when will then be now, Karth?
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is, I think, honest to God, what their game plan is, what it feels to me is that they're going to end up scrapping TW as we know it. I think they are better off walking away from it, especially now that besides Pride, there's not really a reason to be investing into the game mode with how much easier they made access to, well, besides level 3 reroll materials, there's not really much reason to be investing into TW besides just bragging rights, which there are guilds that still like that, and that's fine. I'm not going to argue the point. But I think there are other ways that they could implement guild-wide PvP that is less stressful, less time, more flexible on when people can show up and partake in what's happening there. And so I'm open to new options on that. Actually, I just sent some of my thoughts over to them recently. I don't know what they're going to do with it, but I'm just one man's opinion on the game. But for a lot of it is that there are things that need to change. And I think, at this point with what they've kind of done with setting TW in the corner and putting the shame bucket box on it, I think it's a great time to walk away from it. We still need a guild PvP that adds camaraderie and enjoyment to the game. But I think there are other ways to skin that cat than what we have at the moment.
Yeah. Now, we need to have some form of guild-wide PvP engagement, and I'm hoping that they build something that is new, shiny, and better. What I'm hoping they also do not do is take a leaf out of Colosseum's book and they make it yes, we've got a new game mode that people can enjoy, but by the way, you do have to. We've got territory war levels, and you can only do it by spending $5.99 on this territory war level pack, unless you go to the end of the season, in which everybody gets to territory war level 65. Fuck that, CG. Do not introduce a new PvP game mode that is just whale-gated.
Well,
come on.
so I had a few ideas, and I'll just give the 1,000-foot or
Mhm.
even 10,000-foot view on them. But like the top three that I came up with which was basically one was GAC for TW, which would be the easiest way for them to just cross what they have right now with in-game mechanics and move it over, where you had a skill score to it, so that guilds can get the elo match and they can actually fight, closer to the skill rating. So it should, in theory, separate the bigger strong guilds from the weaker guilds, because they'll pull away from each other naturally, kind of thing. There's a little less RNG to it. It would be the simplest mode that they could implement. The other one that I had for them was kind of like it's the guild sets up a base defense. So let's say like you have outer walls, inner walls, shield generator, command room kind of things, where you set up different not really teams, but you set up different modifiers and stuff like that. So it doesn't take the whole guild to do it. A few people can get together and set up the base. The opposing guild then assaults the base, and then the score they get, and then you assault their base, the score you get, and then it kind of works as the current one does now, where whoever has a greater score at the end wins. And so it would take out some of the RNG, because you could have different things available at the same time, and you can kind of get people to play. But there's that would be an option. The last one I had was kind of like reminding of the old Battlefront 2 style, where you are fighting on an actual like sector map of the galaxy at large.
Yeah.
And so you fight with multiple guilds at the same time. Let's say like you take like 5 to 10 guilds, and everybody has a starting planet, and then you kind of branch off and pick up different planets for different boosts. And then, the game mode lasts a lot longer. Let's say it's like 2 to 4 weeks in length. And then throughout certain days, you will contest planets for control. And then,
like, as you control a planet, you would be accruing points for controlling that zone, that sort of thing.
Yeah. So it would kind of be like the old, like, actual, like, Battlefront 2 map where you fight for planet control, and then when you have like full like lockdown of an area, you get a boost on the rest of your stuff. And so it would just be a longer format. It's something that would go longer, but it'd take less day-to-day involvement. But there are different options for what you can do in that, and some of this stuff doesn't really work when you're in a guild that doesn't really pay attention to what's going on. And so I get that there's going to be things where it's going to be, there should be an opt-in or opt-out system for some of it, so you're not stuck with just a map where there's 7 guilds that don't do anything, and so it's you versus one big guild for the rest of the time. But either which way, they're just ideas that we could put together on some of the stuff that I think we could still have an interesting PvP environment and camaraderie and bragging rights and dominance kind of thing, but that makes the average experience a little bit more palatable to the individual player, where it's not like I have to show up and log in every 2 to 4 hours, or my guild's going to yell at me for not participating in TW enough, and and then make the rewards a little bit more interesting and engaging. But again, it's just the fledgling ideas of what could come. But I feel like we're at a point where TW kind of needs to start going the way of the dodo. I don't think it needs to exist anymore for where we're at in,
I would definitely
in
like
the
it to
game's
be
life cycle.
Burned down and reborn like a phoenix into something entirely different. Yeah, but who knows if and when that happens. So, good question. Next one goes over to Delman Cedar. He says, question for me. With R10 here and R11 Plus on the way in the future most likely, do we suspect that CG will consider adjusting the time length of battles? From what I've heard from a lot of battles versus R10 Leia or Pirate King Hondo that are a relic difference, timing out and perhaps more time, say 30... Okay, so basically, do you think we're going to have an increase to the timer? No, I don't think so. I think that timing out is entirely part of the game. It's a
strategy.
Yeah.
But the answer is going to be, well, you wouldn't time out if you just took your team to Relic 10.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be a really shitty answer, but I feel like that's going to be what ends up happening. That and the other thing too is that you got to understand that some of these things are because of current Datacron sets that
Yes, definitely.
once that goes away, it should be less annoying. And I say all of that knowing full well that probably next season of Datacrons, that's going to get really bad with the tank revives and other bullshit on some of these really chunky teams.
Yeah. They really should have introduced a level 6 with a no revive, like, into this set. Like, because goddamn, nobody wants Vayne coming back more than he already is. He's already ridiculously tanky.
And then do you double up and put Quiggled with it too, just to say,
absolutely.
F Maz, or does Maz really need a tank on what I'm going to use to counter with her? And so, it's options.
Yeah, I don't think we'll ever see an increase in the timer.
No,
I would
think
rather the game
if we got the, if they fix the stuttering and the hitching, I think it would be fine again. Because the biggest issue with Hondo is that the amount of buffs that constantly keep coming and going off the team, it just causes a lot of that stuttering to occur.
Yep. And he also generates so much turn meter for his team that it takes you a long time to get a turn. and then you're stuck attacking Vayne, most likely, who doesn't know how to take damage. He just shrugs off everything.
Unless it's true damage, he doesn't know how to take it.
Yeah.
He's very chunky.
Yeah. So thank you. Lalna asks, do you think 2026 we will finally get a new capital ship / fleet meta? And if yes, do you think the capital ship will be the first to require Relic 10 as its requirements, or will they save it for the next GL? Good question. My only answer to this is I fucking hope we get a new fleet. I really do. I'm so bored with the fleet meta. I'm over it.
Yeah, I would take almost any new fleet meta right now over an 11th GL. In the grand scheme of things, but like I don't have high hopes for a new fleet, because like you look at what they had to do to get the Leviathan out the door with the Fury and the Dagger and the Interceptor and all that went with it. It just really became one of those things to where it was there's a lot of run up to getting that out the door. And unless we are starting to see a lot of unspecific ships start funneling in, it's not going to really give us a good indication that they're going to do something else with it, because they can't just really spring load it on you. They're going to want a conquest ship. They're going to want XYZ. But again, it's one of those things where I don't think they have a full fleshed out plan of where ships goes for them in 2026 and moving forward. And so the answer is just easier to just let it ride, just keep buffing shit and making
release
the meta.
One ship. I'm sure we'll see something for the Malevolence. Maybe we'll see something for the Radis. I really do hope we get a new fleet, but
yeah, I'm hopeful for it, but it's just it's going to be very low on their priority listing in the grand scheme of things.
As far as R10 goes, I've said earlier in the stream, I don't think we're going to see an R10 requirement unless they start introducing more ways to get Relic 10 in the next 6 months. Because if it's just through Colosseum, nobody's going to be able to unlock it. Like, unless we need another way of getting R10 mat server motors in particular, because the only way right now is through using error currency. So unless they up that, make it more accessible, they can't realistically add unless they really want it to only be unlocked. CG don't want to release stuff that only a tiny fraction of the player base is going to actually use. They want their stuff to be used as widely as possible. I wouldn't be surprised if it has like 3 Relic 9s and a bunch of Relic 8s or something like that, but who knows. Cool. Running Bald Man asks, of all the Conquest units, who do you think would be the best Relic 10? I mean, the immediate answer is like Stranger. The immediate one for me, it just has to be Ezra, right? But there are several that are good shouts, I feel.
Well, I feel like out of the Conquest units, the viability of the Relic 10 more or less correlates to what are you fighting with it, more so than the actual like benefits and stats that you get with it. Because for me, it's like if you could take like Malicos to Relic 10 and you're
nice.
going to constantly be countering like Relic 7 teams, that Relic 10 Malicos is going to get to that first rock throw and just delete the other team at an RD of 3. Like just gone for the most part, you know? And so it's like, it's one of those things where like there are going to be conquest units that are going to perform very well because of what they typically fight. And then there are going to be ones that, you know, are just for the lulls. You know, you could do Malgus because he's a chonky ass tank and he'll love having that extra health for dunking on some fool. You know, you could do the same thing for Ezra because it's just going to be more. Bane is another great one because he all undermans and likes having that that
extra
difference in max health. And so there are questions back and forth. It just depends on what you plan on chasing after it with. Actually another good argument would be like Queen Amidala or Luthen, because with the changes to Relic Delta, their summons are now a full-blown Relic 9, which is huge.
Queen Amidala, that thing's already super tanky.
Well,
the decoy, right?
Yeah, the decoy is already super tanky, but having your damage negated because you're R7 attacking into to it is pretty freaking obnoxious. Luthen, that stupid little summons with a positive Relic Delta can clap some major cheeks. And so it's just, there are little nuances to where you could go with the argument. I would say, like, for me, I would pick something that's going to have the most Relic Delta advantage more than like stats or just straight up novelty, and go down the line of something, you know, like Luthen or maybe Malicos, because you have a little bit more control of what you're fighting in the situations. But Ezra's fun, but you know, it's an R10 Ezra does not stop the Leia counter. Full stop. Like it's not going to change it. You might slow you down on a turn or two, but the core mechanics you're abusing with Jyn Adrad, it's not really going to change it. I haven't taken 4.5 minutes to beat a Spectre team in a long time, so I can't see that making a meaningful impact. But if you want to put that R10 Ezra with somebody like Rey or something else, there might be an argument where it might have more of a beneficial. But I honestly am looking at like things like Stranger and Spoodermaul.
Spoodermaul, just for the awesomeness of that character model. We don't know what he does, but he looks fucking cool. So
Dark Side Ufus, you got me sold, man. I was tempted to put R10 on Karth, just for the namesake.
Karth for Karth reasons, of course.
But somebody beat me to the world's first Relic 10 Karth, so I was like, I can wait.
Now I don't want it.
Now I don't want it no more. Ruined.
Tonic asks, if I'm not endgame, still building old and new teams, and will use my free Relic 10 later, is it worth me using 5,000 Colosseum currency on, say, Marok or Shin for my Balaam farm or other farms? I think there's some viability to that. Right now, there's no real rush to get a bunch of Relic 10s, and if you are still building up a bunch of teams, using those Lightspeed tokens to go to Relic 5 on characters that are perhaps harder to get and harder to gear, particularly those that require a lot of Kairatech, like, you know, say the Great Mothers, say Shin, say Marok. Obviously, you can't use it on Balin himself as a legendary. There is some value to that. It saves you a heck of a lot of Kairatech when you use it right, and it saves you a lot of the early game signal materials. So I think there is value for it, but ultimately only you can really decide whether you want to go out for finishing up all your other farms or you want to be pushing up for higher relic levels in your units. I would say go for the LSTs personally in your situation. Just be careful what you spend them on.
Well, again, we don't have high hopes of Relic 10 being a massive requirement early. No. And I think as long as you're engaging, you'll tangentially get enough Relic 10 materials to get a couple of characters over the course of the next 6 months, to where you can kind of plug and play what you want to do from there. If you are really worried about it, I would say just look at what benefits your account the most. And for most people, that answer is not going to be R10. It's going to be a new character. to the board, because a lot of viability in teams changes drastically with just the right team.
Yeah.
So if that's something that benefits you, then I would swing at that before Relic 10.
Trodat asks, how will IG-90, the next marquee, involve with the Colosseum after his release? Will the Colosseum team be averaged with IG-90 level, or Stormtrooper Luke works on the level to which you're getting? Yeah, so basically every new marquee that comes to the game sets the baseline for the summoned units. So IG-90 comes to the game, your summoned units are going to scale off IG-90's error level, not Stormtrooper Luke. But with IG-90 coming to the game, you will immediately be able to get him to error level 15, I want to say, roughly. So it's not like you'll be starting at error level 5 or error level 6 or whatever, you know. You will have a little bit of an uplift. Yeah. So it's not an average, unfortunately. No, it's not an average of that. It's just based on the most recent marquee release is what they scale to.
Yeah. Yep, that's about it.
Mm-hmm. And we have one final question, Garth. One final question. How can you explain the new Galactic Legend requirement with the new system of adding characters? Do you think this is a way? This way is just added for the anniversary era, same as Conquest characters. Even the whales will not be able to test teams and they will be stuck. Do you think they should just delete the system and say sorry? I'm not sure what the actual question is here.
I think what they're getting at is that with how GL requirements are added to the game versus how the era system will treat marquees coming into the game, it kind of makes a conflict of being ready for a GL, because you can't invest in the characters until the era is essentially over. But I think the important part to remember is that they already said that Conquest units, Galactic Legends, Journey characters not associated with the era do have a separate release cadence and schedule and everything else that goes with that. They're not tied together. So when they're releasing era characters through the era system, you can just full blown count on that the marquees, if they're needed for a GL, the GL's not releasing until after that era is concluded.
Yeah,
that's going to be how that works.
Like historically, they would give us a run up, right? And they'd say, here's the first set of 4 requirements or 5 requirements for this Galactic Legend. And then 2 weeks later, we'd get a second set, right? And it would go that way. I imagine that probably gets done away with for future Galactic Legends. And you were just going to get all the requirements basically right before the GL comes to the game. Or, you know, they'll give us the first week and the second week and the third week, and then it will be all of the last era units just go all in that last requirement box. It's like, hey, every mutant marquee from the last era.
Or they could just do it all in the beginning, right? Like the 5 characters coming are, you know, these are your first 5 requirements for GL Thrawn, you know, whatever it ends up being. That's a strong reality of what we're looking at with this particular system that's coming into play. So I don't think they should delete the system at this junction, because we are at a point where we don't know enough of how it's supposed to work to be able to adequately judge it, to know if it's a mistake or not, unfortunately.
I think if the loaned units system was in place, we would have a much better idea of how these teams operate, right? Because the idea behind the loaned units instead of summoned units was that you get to test the new marquees with their actual teams, with teams that make sense, synergistically speaking. But they ran out of time to implement it in this one. We have to hope that future eras, they won't run out of time. We will get loaned units that actually make sense. So, that idea of we don't know how to play with this team until post the end of the era will hopefully go away a little bit at least. So yeah, I think like Carl said, it's a bit too early right now. Let's at least wait until the end of the first era before we fully condemn.
And hopefully when we get closer to the end of it, they give us a little Q&A of, hey, here's what we learned, here's what we're changing with the next era, and we get a little bit of a conversation about that. It baffles my mind that we had so much talk around Relic 10 and Relic Delta and just damn near crickets with Coliseum. And by comparison, Coliseum was a massive change to the fundamental player experience, and Relic Delta feels damn near inconsequential in comparison. And so it's just like, I where was the fireside chat for Coliseum and a breakdown of how that whole thing worked and what we were doing and what was going on with it and how this would be beneficial for players and everything else that comes along with that particular line of thought. And it's just like, Jesus Christ, I really kind of wish we had one of those for this. That was part of the criticism I gave back to them earlier this week, which is like, you gave us nothing about a hands down shattering update to this particular game and how things have changed. And your answer has just been like, well, trust me, bro.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely would have made sense if we'd have had a play test for Coliseum. So at least we could have tried to change things before it goes live. Stuff like, not being able to use the proper units, stuff like all of the bugs, stuff like, how crappy the early game experience feels. We would be able to get the questions out that need to be answered before it goes live. It's just really weird that they didn't think to do that, because we were already doing it. We were already doing it for Relic Delta. Like, I'm
100%. I'm 100% convinced with this game mode, they were worried of having an immediate, Datacron leak Mark 2.0 kind of thing, right? Like they were worried that if we got our eyes on it and we saw it, that we would immediately go and this is awful. We don't want it. And we'd burn the entire process we just built up to the ground over the sake that we didn't like what we saw. And so I can understand why they felt like it was better just to let it run into the wild and deal with the blowback versus actually having a beta program step in and test and iron out some questions and bugs and get some dialogue ahead of the player base for this. And we might see that on future iterations with this particular program moving forward, but I can understand why they played this one close to their chest and were concerned about it. But I think in hindsight, they will have concluded that was not the right call, that it would have been better to trust the people a little bit more and get in there and get some feedback on it. And even maybe just slowly disseminate it out against who you can trust and isn't going to run to the immediate podium and go, look at what they're doing. They're going to ruin everything. I feel like I would have been happier with a little bit of a heads up on this and giving some feedback, because there was just a lot of things where we had absolutely no idea. We still don't have an idea on some of this stuff, and we keep circling back on the exact same answer of like, oh, trust me, bro, you'll get there. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, but like, what's the most like ball aching experience in your life? Going sledding on a 0.5% grade hill. Like, will you reach the bottom eventually? But it'd be faster if you walked. Like,
don't have too much fun now. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, I feel like, unfortunately, I have to agree with Arnold to a degree here, where I feel like the hand holding on this first era is so excessive that it's like, I don't like the fact that I'm held back so far from doing anything interesting. And the fact is, I would have been more okay with that result had I known that was the experience I was going to have with the system out the rip, versus like madly just spending money to try to see how far I could get, where I could go, what was going on, to just immediately walk and go, okay, well, I literally am collecting rewards in Coliseum right now that I can't use until the next marquee, because they are not going to benefit me at all.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of the annoyances.
Yeah. Yeah. Right, Karth, I believe we have a hard cutoff here, as you have certain
I do
engagements.
have to get to an engagement with some friends, so I do have to meander on out of here.
All good.
But we got through everything. We got our solid hour and a half of questions in, so I feel like we've. But yeah, I was gonna respond to Drex real quick, but
yeah,
I just
go ahead.
With the thing with Sig's post, yes, he's got a great breakdown of the entire thing. It's exactly the right answer. It's something that CG should have led with. It's something that we shouldn't expect a data miner or a beta tester or a content creator to have to relay this information back to the player base, because unfortunately, there isn't a pop-up ad in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes that goes, "Hey, this scribe guy does a great breakdown of what we're doing. Please go watch his video to get the full context of what we're doing here." And
I'll go a step better. They need to have, in the news section of this game, they need to have an embedded video player that just plays all my YouTube content on repeat. Okay, so you can literally watch me from the game itself. That's perfect.
But that's my point, though, is like, I'm just frustrated that we're relying on the content creators and the testers and the community at large, the community at large to disseminate information. And unfortunately, it's not getting spread around fast enough. We know this because every other day you get somebody that joins your Discord that goes, "Hey, I'm having XYZ problem. What gives?" And unluckily now, at least your Discord is pretty civil, and people are willing to give out that information without just trolling the ever-loving shit out of somebody. Unless you're me, that's my go-to.
But that's how you get your jollies, Garth. That and calling people peasants.
Yes, peasants.
So many commoners.
Yes, so many peasants in this chat. But that's where I get at with some of this stuff. It's just like, I just kind of I want the communication to be a little bit better on things moving forward. I know that there's a whole loop that they have to jump through for them. I know there's a whole issue that they have with getting things out on that side of things, but just where this one landed, the most sour taste in the average player's mouth is just the straight up confusion, the not knowing, the not having an official source to point to that says, yes, this is correct. It is just speculation and data mining that we're at right now. And then whatever we get to relay back from the devs, if we get an answer to any of our questions, we can. But again, we have an audience right now here of a few hundred people.
Slaying.
Where are we going to go tomorrow to disseminate that information? Are we going to get everybody to come watch the last 10 minutes of Tribe Talk so that they can get the important updates of what's going on in the game? It's just relying on that kind of befuddles me. And I kind of wish we had a bit more official stuff coming through. So anyways.
Yeah. All right, we'll have to wrap it then.
I could spend time.
I know, but we also don't want to upset Mrs. Karth. She's going to come and drag you off by the ear and be like, "We've got plans, honey."
We do have plans. We do have plans.
But your head is beautiful and bald, Karth, and I appreciate that very much. So it's
just for you. Well, I did it.
Good chat. I knew it was for me. I could tell. At the moment you sat down, I was like, "He's done this for me. What a sweetheart." Are we around next Sunday? I can't remember.
I should be. I'm not. Well, Thanksgiving is on Thursday, but I'm not leaving town for the weekend to go visit anybody, so I should still be around for next week. Right. You filthy Welsh across the island.
We don't give thanks for anything.
No,
you guys we're never thankful.
You guys wait for Christmas for that noise.
Yeah, that's when we're thankful.
See, what we do is we have Thanksgiving so that we can get our politics talks out on Thanksgiving, ruin relationships so that we can save money at Christmas.
So you can return the Christmas presents ahead of time and get money back.
Yeah,
gotcha.
Yeah, that's all it's about.
That makes sense. All right, well, hopefully we will see you on Sunday and maybe we'll get a guest on. We'll see. We'll try our best. Thank you, everybody, for your questions at home and for being patient with us. And we hope to see you soon, very soon. Good night, everybody. Peace.